It's a company that may soon be worth more than Facebook. San Francisco-based Uber is changing the way many people are getting around town. But how safe are their drivers?
Uber has been linked to several incidents, including the death of a 6-year-old girl in San Francisco. So what exactly are you signing up for when you get in an Uber car? Investigative reporter Elyce Kirchner looked at drivers for Uber. Now, these are regular people who use their own cars to give rides.
They are, and working with investigative teams at our NBC stations in LA and Chicago, we found drivers across the country with criminal records that include burglary, domestic assault, and drug trafficking. That's even though Uber insists their background checks are stricter than taxi cabs. And when an UberX driver is in an accident, we also uncovered that you could be left paying the bill. They are on the move.
Pretty established company, about to go IPO. You expect them to have coverage when you're their customer.
Are you Uber? Ride services like Uber are taking over the transportation industry. Download the Uber app, click, and within minutes, a driver picks you up. How easy was it to get a job with Uber?
It's all of it by internet. When you add your name, you add your social security.
Bassem El-Batniji had been an UberX driver for 9 days when Jason Herrera summoned him from the Mission District in San Francisco.
We're heading to the Marina District to meet up with some other coworkers.
But within a mile, El-Batniji's white Prius smashed into another car, badly injuring him and Herrera.
All I remember was waking up inside the actual ambulance.
They've been left with hospital bills because El-Batniji's personal insurance wouldn't cover the accident, and Uber claims it's not their responsibility.
You buy a car, right? It comes with a warranty. You go step in a cab, you've got coverage. I step in an Uber car, and I got to question whether or not I'm going to be covered if there's an accident.
According to a lawsuit Herrera filed against Uber, El-Batniji's insurance denied liability because his policy excludes instances of driving for profit, meaning the former driver's personal insurance was worthless. He needed commercial insurance. Did you tell Uber that you only had personal insurance and not commercial insurance?
Yes. They know. It's not like a professional job they do. They do like hiding. If anything happened, they hide themselves.
Uber tells us they do carry $1 million of liability coverage per incident, which steps in as primary insurance if the driver's policy is not available for any reason, covering from the first dollar. And beyond questionable insurance policies, we found UberX drivers with questionable pasts and UberX customers who say they've been victimized.
Why don't you get in my face again?
In November, this passenger claimed driver Davia Whitmire was verbally abusive. He filed a police report, and now the district attorney's office is investigating. Whitmire's past record includes several drug arrests, multiple restraining orders, mandatory domestic violence programs, and time in state prison. Uber tells us Whitmire passed a background check.
Just mad because I kicked you out.
But we found he was also on probation at the time of this incident for a drug charge, despite Uber's policy of rejecting applicants with a criminal record within the past 7 years. And we found even more drivers causing concern across the country. In Chicago, a driver operating without a valid license got pulled over with this passenger in the back seat.
I'd assume that there's at least a background check done, but I was a little pissed off.
This man also drove for UberX in Chicago despite 5 prior arrests and 2 burglary and disorderly conduct convictions. And in Los Angeles, we asked Beverly Locke to test the system. The reformed ex-con goes online and applies to become an UberX driver.
I was kind of baffled, still baffled how they let me in.
Her 20-year rap sheet includes burglary, cocaine possession, and she's still on probation for threatening someone with death or bodily injury, a violent past she admits to.
I pulled a girl out of a car and almost beat her to death.
But 4 weeks after applying, she gets the job with UberX. All indications show Uber has fired or suspended drivers when things have gone wrong, but publicly takes the stance that they are a technology company, not a transportation company, and in an email told us drivers are, quote, licensees of our software. So to Uber, the rules are different.
They destroyed my life. They didn't change my life. My car is gone. And also the insurance after this happened, they denied me.
I think it's a big risk, and I think the government needs to do something about it.
Now, the California Public Utilities Commission oversees ride services in the state. The agency requires commercial insurance, criminal background checks on drivers, and vehicle inspections. To help cover those costs, just last week, Uber announced it will bill UberX passengers a $1 Safe Rides fee. And one more note on this story, we discovered late yesterday that the driver of the other car in Herrera's incident is a relative of an NBC Bay Area employee. Raj, Jess, we requested an on-camera interview several times with Uber by phone and email, but they ultimately denied our multiple requests.
Take a look at this. Investigators have begun poring over the crash site to figure out what went wrong, but they'll also be looking at the safety records of the companies involved in the crash. Investigative reporter Elyce Kirchner has been looking at those records already. And Elyce, what have you learned?
Well, we've learned that FedEx Freight has been cited more than 600 times for unsafe driving in the last 2 years. Digging through public records, we've also discovered the company has been involved in hundreds of accidents.
According to records we obtained from the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, FedEx Freight has been cited more than 600 times for driving dangerously nationwide in the last 2 years. Nearly half of those violations were for speeding. Others include failing to obey traffic signals, improper lane changes, and using a cell phone or texting while driving. The investigative unit has also learned that in the last 2 years, drivers have been involved in 730 crashes in the United States. 43 of those incidents happened in California. Nationwide, 24 people have died in FedEx Freight-involved accidents. 2 of those fatalities occurred in California.
Now, the chairman and CEO, Frederick Smith, has released a statement in part in response to this accident. It reads, "It will take some time to fully understand exactly how this accident occurred and why. In the meantime, I want everyone to know that we here at FedEx are committed to providing every resource necessary to assist investigators in their efforts to understand what happened." And as far as the tour bus involved, Silverado Stages is based in San Luis Obispo. They have under 200 employees, and they have never been involved in a fatal accident. Investigators will be looking at all of these different factors in the coming months, and they should have a cause anywhere between 3 to 6 months. Live in the newsroom, Elyce Kirchner, NBC Bay Area News.
Well, imagine it sounds horrific. Dogs and cats dehydrated, left in the scorching sun, or even sent to the wrong city. Tonight, 2 former pet handlers are confirming what we uncovered, that animals in some cases are being mistreated.
Investigative reporter Elyce Kirchner traveled to Washington, D.C. to speak with the federal agency that oversees the transportation of animals. Elyce, strong allegations here.
Yeah, Raj, well, the former pet handlers say they saw it firsthand. Animals being left out in extreme heat, pets mishandled, even accidentally shipped to the wrong country, all in the care of airlines.
People are being misled.
They worked in cargo at one of the country's largest airports.
Sometimes the animals would actually be deceased on arrival.
Dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Both wanted us to alter their voices and appearances to protect their careers. They worked for a pet care company hired by United Airlines to provide quality control. Inside this holding facility on airport grounds, both made sure animals were fed, walked, and properly secured in their crates while being shipped in United Airlines' Pet Safe program. From there, United's cargo employees would take the animals out to the tarmac.
She was dying, literally right in front of me.
They chose to speak out after seeing what happened to Janet Sinclair's dog, Sedona.
The animals are still sitting in the tarmac.
Sinclair filmed this cell phone video showing Sedona's crate on the tarmac in 90-plus degree heat during a layover in Houston. Sinclair spent nearly $3,000 in vet bills. United responded by sending the investigative unit a statement, in part saying, "We offered to compensate Miss Sinclair by fully reimbursing her vet bill, but unfortunately, she declined to accept the terms of the agreement."
I am so sorry. Please forgive me.
And I just wanted to reach out to her and tell her that, I'm not surprised at all.
Not surprised, because they claim they've witnessed other problems as well, and even sent these photos to United supervisors, like this puppy that allegedly arrived bloated and sick, because they argue she was too young to fly as cargo. Pets without water, or water that a dog can hardly reach in its crate.
Sometimes crates upside down. no cups inside.
We asked United several times for an on-camera interview to respond to the allegations. They declined, instead sending us this statement saying in part, without providing us specifics on times, dates, or locations, we are unable to directly respond to or research these allegations. The carrier also says their PetSafe partners and employees are well trained in animal care and have completed a USDA-approved customized live animal handling course. And according to its website, the carrier guarantees that pets travel in climate-controlled vehicles for connections in United's hubs.
I know for a fact there was many summers where the van temperatures didn't work.
The airline also says pet owners can track their animals in transit.
They sent a dog that was supposed to go to Florida to Hong Kong.
How do you send an animal to the wrong country?
Complete carelessness and lack of accountability.
Our concern, we want to make sure these animals arrive safely at their destination.
Dr. Gerald Russian is the staff veterinary medical officer at the USDA in Washington, D.C. The agency enforces the Animal Welfare Act, meant to protect animals in transport.
Our goal is always to have zero injuries.
Russian argues incidents can be discovered and prevented during unannounced USDA inspections. We shared with Dr. Russian some of the complaints the pet handlers we spoke to sent to United supervisors, like in July, when United employees allegedly refused to move a panting golden retriever off the tarmac. Instead, they kept smoking, talking with the dog sitting in his kennel in the heat, or needing to ask United supervisors for months to provide water bowls in the dead of summer.
Would those be violations?
Well, you know, the incident that you described to me, we have to look into it.
But that can get complicated. By law, airlines must report incidents to the Department of Transportation. Those reports are sent once a month to the USDA. Then they can investigate and can take action. But United hasn't reported Sedona's incident to the DOT. Medical records show she suffered heat stroke, which can be considered an illness, not an injury. Airlines only report to DOT when an animal dies, disappears, or is injured.
Some would argue that the airlines aren't motivated to necessarily report it.
Well, you know, we don't base our jobs on what's reported. Our role is to do our inspections. Our role is to look into complaints. So if they're not reporting it, that's DOT's role.
But we also discovered during the 4 months the pet handlers were sending emails to United supervisors, we could not find any unannounced USDA inspections of the airline at that major hub.
You worked at one of the busiest airports in the U.S. for 5 years. How often did you see a USDA investigator show up unannounced?
I'm going to say maybe once, maybe.
Did you ever see a USDA investigator show up unannounced?
No.
And USDA inspectors visit airports 2 to 3 times a year, sometimes more if complaints are filed. There have been more than 400 reports of animals dying, disappearing, or being injured in the care of airlines since 2005. The airlines argue thousands of pets are safely shipped every year. And the USDA urges that if anything happens, that they should report it directly to them. We've set up a link on our website so that people can do just that.
It's troubling for us pet owners.
That's one way of putting it, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Elyce.